Success does not wait for the hesitant. Every moment you delay focus is energy lost, opportunities missed, and progress stalled. This full audiobook, How to Focus on Yourself Until You Win, reveals 10 powerful strategies to master your mind, eliminate distractions, build unstoppable habits, and transform pain into personal power. You will learn practical, step-by-step techniques to rewire your mindset, take control of your life, and commit fully until success becomes inevitable. Watch, apply, and see results compounds. Subscribe now to unlock your full potential and start your journey toward unstoppable achievement today. Number 1. Cut noise. Build inner discipline. Begin by noticing the small things that steal attention. The soft ping of an incoming message, the half-read headline that lingers at the edge of focus, the habit of checking a screen when a difficult thought arrives. Those tiny intrusions are not harmless. They are the gravel on the road that slows every forward step. Building inner discipline starts by clearing the gravel. Discipline is not a sudden surge of willpower. It is the steady removal of friction so the most important actions become the obvious, easy choice. The first action is simple and immediate. Create a zone of silence. Choose one part of the day and protect it fiercely for a week. 30 minutes is enough to begin. Sit in one place. Remove your phone or put it out of sight. Close the browser and breathe. Notice the texture of the chair beneath you, the temperature of the air on your skin, how the weight of a single thought changes when it gets full attention. That sensory anchor, sight, touch, breath, creates a habit loop. Over multiple mornings, 30 minutes becomes an unriddable advantage. Clarity, prioritized thinking, reduced emotional reactivity. The instruction is exact. Pick the same time each day, do the same single practice, and mark it on the calendar without negotiation. Next, design a minimal workspace that signals seriousness. Clear the desk until only the instruments for the current task remain. A notebook, a pen, a single device if necessary. The brain reads clutter as an invitation to scatter. A clean surface is not aesthetic only. It is a practical cue that the moment is for single-minded work. Apply a 2-item rule for visibility. No more than 2 non-essential objects on the desk. If the coffee mug, charger, and loose papers are competing for space, the brain will choose shallow engagement. Remove them. If a room is impossible to clear, create a portable workspace, a closed lid table, a folder that contains only today's priorities, a carrying basket of essentials. The discipline is the practice of making the right choice the easier one. Boundaries with other people are a core discipline muscle. People will test availability because access brings convenience. Learn to reject convenience in favor of purpose. Practice 3 phrases to protect time. A brief, neutral "not available then," an alternative offer that keeps your time, and a clear "I will get back to you at X." Those phrases create distance without hostility. When a colleague or friend requests an immediate response, respond with the boundary. Example, a message arrives asking for a last-minute meeting. Reply with "not available at that time. I can respond at 4 p.m. That small assertive move trains both you and others. Over time, the environment adjusts to the new default. Less interruption, more sustained effort. Noise is not only external. Internal noise, rumination, worry, comparison, degrades output. Replace 1 hour of passive scrolling or news intake with a disciplined ritual. A 5-minute breath check, followed by a 10-minute writing session. Use a timer. In the writing, do not edit. List 3 elements. What needs finishing today? 1 fear to confront, 1 concrete next step. That raw entry is a map of where attention must go. The specific practice reduces the mental weight of options. It is easier to choose a task when the path is written and visible. Reduce decision fatigue by automating low-value choices. A simple wardrobe rotation, a fixed lunch option, a templated morning routine. Each automated element conserves discipline for the decisions that matter. This is practical stoicism. Accept what is indifferent and reserve energy for what aligns with long-term goals. Create a decision closet, a small list of choices for routine moments. When the mind wants to avoid work, the closet provides a predictable default. It removes the trap of endless preference exploration and steadies focus. Technology demands a disciplined interface. Use 3 technical rules: schedule email twice daily, silence social notifications, and create one channel for urgent contacts. Set the email windows, one in the late morning, one in the late afternoon, and commit to processing messages only then. Place social apps in a folder on the second page of the phone and remove push alerts. For urgent contacts, use a labeled contact family or one trusted colleague with permission to call if something truly matters. These rules reduce reactive behavior. Reactivity is the opposite of discipline. It hands over control of time. Every time a notification is refused, inner discipline increment. Build the habit of micro-victories. Begin each work session with a 25-minute sprint aimed at a single micro-goal. The brain rewards completion. Small wins produce dopamine and momentum. Name the goal before starting, such as finish the first 500 words or complete client outline. Use a visible timer, an actual clock or a mechanical timer. When the sprint finishes, take a 1-minute physical break. Stand, stretch, feel the floor under your feet. The physical sensation reconnects the body to the mind and prevents passive drift. Over days, these sprints compound into hours of deep, uninterrupted work. Practice saying no with precision. Many people fear the social consequence of refusal. Silence that fear by framing no as an honest allocation of capacity. A concise template is unable to take this on now. Available after date time. No apology is required. Discipline often looks like polite, direct refusal. The emotional muscle grows with repetition. Keep a notebook of the requests refused and the benefits gained. After a month, the list will show reclaimed hours and projects that actually moved forward. A ritual of evening accounting strengthens inner discipline. Spend 5 minutes before bed writing 2 columns: progress and obstacles. Progress is specific. Finish a proposal, completed 2 sprints, and obstacles are concrete. Check messages too often. Unclear priorities. For each obstacle, write 1 corrective action for the next day. This practice prevents repeated mistakes from becoming habits. It is both mercy and justice. Mercy because it allows the day to close. Justice because it holds the next day to higher standards. Physical habits anchor mental strength. Sleep, movement, and nutrition are not optional. A disciplined body supports a disciplined mind. Concrete steps. Commit to the same sleep window. 7-8 hours. Move for at least 20 minutes daily, ideally in the morning to prime the nervous system. Eat 1 nourishing meal free of distraction. The sensory detail of crisp air in a morning walk, or the warm heft of a bowl of whole food, connects discipline to lived experience. When the body feels steady, the mind follows. Use a single, public accountability point. Tell 1 trustworthy person what will be done and when. Report progress once per week. The social mechanism is a lever. The expectation of follow-up increases consistency. Choose someone who reflects values rather than demands results. An honest friend, a coach, an accountability partner. Structure the check-in. What was promised? What happened? Next promise. Public accountability raises the cost of slipping and rewards sustained discipline. Finally, cultivate the inner posture of a student. Discipline is not punishment. It is practice. View each day as a training session in which courage, patience, and consistency are the exercises. When distraction wins, do not linger and note the mistake, understand the trigger, and adjust the environment. Shame dulls action. Curiosity produces correction. Adopt a stoic question. What can be done now that aligns with my highest cause? Use that question at transition points. The start of work, after a break, before a meeting. It is small but decisive. Practical exercises to begin immediately. Place your phone in another room for the next 30 minutes and write a single paragraph describing the most important task for today. Schedule 2 email windows on the calendar. Remove social notifications for 1 week. Create a 30-minute silence for 7 days and mark the completion with a check on the calendar. Keep a simple log of wins and failures. The log is not an indulgence. It is a training ledger that converts intention into history. The discipline cultivated through cutting noise is not rigid stoicism that denies pleasure. It is an intentional architecture of living. Small practices protect the ability to pursue work that matters, relationships that sustain, and reflection that clarifies. The immediate reward may be calm, but the greater yield is compounding competence. One uninterrupted hour becomes 3, then 5, and those hours build a life of progress rather than a life of reaction. This is not a promise of overnight transformation. It is a path. The sensible steps are ordinary. Remove an alert. Close a tab. Speak a refusal. Stand for 5 minutes. Write down a next action. Do those ordinary things with rigor and continuity, and the inner landscape changes. The pulse slows. The breath deepens. Attention becomes a cultivated field instead of random brush. Inner discipline grows when the environment is shaped to support chosen action, when decisions are simplified, and when the body is cared for as a foundation. Finish today by identifying one noise to remove immediately, one ritual to begin tomorrow morning, and one boundary to practice this week. Place them where they will be seen. The mind honors visible commitment. Over time, the daily adjustments add up to a life that is not scattered but intentional, not reactive but measured, not crowded with distraction but carved by purpose. The quiet that follows is not empty. It is full of the work that leads to winning. Number 2. Daily habits that create winners. Every successful life is built on the foundation of repeated action. Winning is rarely about one grand decision or a single stroke of luck. It is the product of daily habits, executed with precision, consistency, and intention. The small actions you perform every morning, every afternoon, and every evening compound over time, shaping not only results but character. If attention is paid to the way days are structured, life begins to move with clarity, energy, and momentum. Habits are the architecture of achievement, and understanding them transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Start with the morning. How the day begins is more significant than most people realize. A morning anchored in purpose aligns the body and mind for the challenges ahead. It does not require an elaborate routine. It requires focus. Begin by setting a clear intention for the day, something measurable and achievable. Instead of a vague "I want to be productive," identify one core outcome: finish a report, complete a workout, or practice a skill. That specificity provides the brain a tangible target, triggers dopamine release, creates momentum, and allows the mind to see progress before distraction can intervene. Movement is another non-negotiable habit. A brief session of physical activity, even 15 to 20 minutes, produces more than energy. It sharpens mental clarity and strengthens resolve. This is not just about fitness. It is about conditioning the will. The body becomes an instrument of purpose when it is trained regularly. Walking with intention, lifting, stretching, or even a series of push-ups cultivates a rhythm where effort produces immediate feedback. Discipline is reinforced by the body's resistance and its ability to adapt. Small daily challenges in physical form translate into resilience in mental and emotional form. The habit of focused work is the third cornerstone. Most people drift from task to task, surrendering hours to shallow activity. Winners structure their work into periods of deep concentration. The Pomodoro technique is effective because it pairs short bursts of effort with brief restorative breaks. Use a timer to lock in 25 or 50-minute sessions where distraction is forbidden. During this period, remove all external interruptions, phone, email, social media, and dedicate the mind entirely to the task at hand. The brain responds positively to clear parameters. Each completed session reinforces self-trust and creates a foundation for extended productivity. Reflection and journaling are often overlooked yet powerful habits. At the end of each day, write down what went well and what could be improved. Capture lessons, not excuses. This practice converts experience into insight, mistakes into guidance, and effort into measurable progress. Over time, a journal becomes a personal blueprint, a record of growth that can be referenced to prevent repeated errors and reinforce effective strategies. Reflection trains attention, turning abstract knowledge into concrete wisdom. Nutrition plays a surprisingly vital role in daily performance. Habits around what and when you eat influence energy, mood, and decision-making. Winners treat food as fuel rather than indulgence. Eating with awareness, choosing balanced meals, avoiding mindless snacking, and respecting natural hunger cues supports steady energy levels throughout the day. It also instills self-regulation, a trait critical for long-term achievement. Every mindful meal becomes a small act of self-mastery, reinforcing the discipline that translates into all areas of life. Another habit is intentional learning. Every day, allocate time to improve skills, expand knowledge, or challenge assumptions. This can be reading, listening to expert insights, practicing a craft, or analyzing past outcomes. Growth is a cumulative process. Even 15 minutes of focused learning daily compounds into expertise over months and years. Learning with intention rather than passively consuming information develops the mind's ability to absorb, adapt, and apply knowledge efficiently. Winners understand that intellectual edge is as important as physical or emotional stamina. Habits also extend to social and environmental choices. The people you interact with and the spaces you occupy influence energy and behavior. Start by identifying one environment or social pattern that drains attention or diminishes motivation. Replace it incrementally with constructive influence. Time with a mentor, a peer who inspires accountability, or a clutter-free workspace. These small adjustments alter daily behavior significantly, reinforcing productive patterns. Environment shapes habits more than sheer willpower. Adjust it deliberately. Time management is a habit of winners. Rather than treating hours as a vague continuum, they segment the day into deliberate blocks for focus, rest, and preparation. Each block has a clear purpose and measurable outcome. This structured approach creates psychological clarity. The mind knows exactly what it must achieve and when. Boundaries around time reduce stress and prevent dilution of effort. Even a single hour of undisturbed work, scheduled consistently, becomes a powerful lever for long-term achievement. Gratitude and mental framing are subtle but essential habits. Winners take time each day to acknowledge progress, recognize positive elements in their work and life, and internalize lessons from setbacks. This is not passive positivity. It is a disciplined orientation of thought. Writing down 3 accomplishments or moments of learning each day primes the mind for focus and persistence. Gratitude strengthens resilience, allowing the mind to recover quickly from obstacles without losing momentum. Sleep and recovery complete the habit framework. Without adequate rest, all other disciplines weaken. A consistent bedtime routine, even if minimal, reinforces the body's natural rhythm. Winners treat sleep as a non-negotiable investment in performance, understanding that the mind consolidates learning, processes experiences, and restores energy while the body rests. Sleep is not optional. It is the infrastructure for all other daily practices. Integration is critical. Habits gain power when they are combined into a seamless flow. Morning intention, movement, focused work, learning reflection, and structured rest are not isolated acts. They form a chain. Each link strengthens the next. The cumulative effect of this chain, executed daily, is dramatic. 1 week of intentional habits creates clarity. 1 month builds confidence. 1 year develops mastery. Daily habits are small, but their compounding effect defines winners. Consistency requires monitoring. Track habits, even in a simple journal or app. Observe patterns, which actions are maintained, which are skipped, which require adjustment. Honest tracking converts vague intentions into visible accountability. The brain responds to visible progress. Consistency reinforces identity. With daily practice, a habit ceases to be a chore and becomes an automatic choice, a reflection of self-discipline. Habits also serve as a shield against chaos. Life is unpredictable. Emergencies, distractions, and crises are inevitable. When foundational habits are solid, they act as anchors, keeping focus and momentum intact. The disciplined routine becomes a personal fortress. Even when external circumstances fluctuate, internal structure remains constant. This stability is a defining trait of winners. They do not surrender their day to circumstance, but navigate it with prepared system. Practical application begins now. Identify 3 small habits to implement immediately. 1 for energy, 1 for focus, 1 for reflection. Commit to executing them daily for 7 days. Observe the changes in clarity, productivity, and confidence. Adjust incrementally, never attempting radical overhaul all at once. Habits thrive under small, deliberate repetition, not under sporadic bursts of intensity. Every habit must be connected to a purpose. Ask daily, how does this action move me toward my highest objective? Purpose transforms routine into significance. The mind resists meaningless repetition, but embraces disciplined effort when it aligns with personal values and long-term goals. Daily habits are the medium through which intention becomes reality. Ultimately, winning is not about chance or extraordinary circumstances. It is the result of repeated, intentional, and disciplined actions performed day after day. Each morning, each decision, each act of focus and reflection builds the structure of success. Habits create identity, and identity creates results. Through small, consistent daily choices, a life of achievement, resilience, and mastery emerges. The process is continuous. There is no ultimate finish line. There is always room to refine, improve, and elevate. Daily habits are both the vehicle and the destination. When practiced with consistency, awareness, and purpose, they transform ordinary existence into a life marked by sustained victories, personal growth, and unwavering discipline. The journey begins by taking ownership of one day at a time, choosing each action deliberately, and weaving it into the tapestry of long-term success. By cultivating daily habits thoughtfully, the life you imagine becomes inevitable. Success is not sudden. It is the sum of ordinary, intentional actions performed relentlessly. Daily habits create winners not by accident but by design. Number 3. Detach from opinions. Trust process. Life is full of voices, some offering advice, others passing judgment, and many simply projecting their own fears or insecurities onto your choices. Every opinion carries weight only if you allow it to. The moment external judgments begin to dictate your actions, energy is siphoned away from what truly matters: your growth, your discipline, and your results. Detachment from opinions is not indifference or arrogance. It is clarity. It is recognizing that the journey you are on is personal and that the roadmap cannot be dictated by someone else's perspective. The first step toward detachment is awareness. Notice when opinions affect mood or behavior. A casual comment, a social media post, or even a well-meaning critique can unconsciously steer decisions. Observe the physiological response, the tightening of the chest, the racing of thoughts, or the urge to justify. This is evidence of influence. By identifying these moments, it becomes possible to intervene and choose whether the input deserves attention or should be acknowledged and set aside. Trusting the process requires a strong inner anchor. The process is the series of intentional actions you have designed to move toward a goal. Each step, each small habit, each decision compounds over time. The results are rarely immediate, and the influence of outside opinions is a temptation to measure progress in the wrong time frame. By focusing on the process rather than external validation, effort gains consistency, and patience becomes a strategic asset. Discipline and detachment involves defining which opinions matter and which are irrelevant. Constructive feedback from experienced mentors or trusted advisors can be integrated with purpose. All other judgments, particularly those rooted in envy, misunderstanding, or superficial observation, are distractions. Mentally classify opinions: relevant, irrelevant, and harmful. Handle each category differently. Relevant opinions are evaluated, acted upon, and then released. Irrelevant opinions are acknowledged but ignored. Harmful opinions are treated as noise, not instruction. This conscious filtering strengthens focus and reduces emotional turbulence. A powerful habit is daily mental rehearsal. Spend a few minutes each morning envisioning challenges and anticipating unsolicited criticism. Imagine the scenarios and rehearse a calm, grounded response. I hear your perspective, but I will continue with the steps I know lead to my objective. This mental preparation reduces reactivity when real criticism arises. It creates a buffer between external noise and internal action, reinforcing control over decisions and reinforcing trust in your methodology. Detach physically as well as mentally. Limit exposure to environments that consistently amplify unhelpful opinions. Social media, excessive news, and idle gossip often provide a steady stream of judgment without context. Create periods of intentional disengagement. Use these intervals to reflect, plan, and act, without the interference of collective perception. This does not require isolation but disciplined engagement. The mind becomes sharper, creativity expands, and confidence in decisions strengthens when external noise is intentionally minimized. Trust grows with repeated evidence. Start with small goals and focus on the process to achieve them. Each completed action builds confidence in the methodology, regardless of what others say. For example, commit to a personal project for 30 days without seeking approval. Track your progress meticulously. When the project succeeds or shows measurable improvement, the outcome validates your approach. Over time, repeated victories establish an internal feedback system stronger than any external judgment. Trust is built through consistent proof, not persuasion. Another practical approach is to shift the internal dialogue. Replace self-doubt, triggered by others' opinions, with process-focused affirmations. Instead of thinking, "People will think I'm failing," reframe to, "I am executing the steps required to reach my goal." Language shapes perception. Words that reinforce patience, consistency, and action become tools for detachment. They anchor the mind in what can be controlled rather than what cannot. Learn to see criticism as neutral data. A comment does not inherently define value or truth. It is simply information which can be observed without emotional attachment. Ask, does this information improve my approach? Does it highlight an actionable adjustment? If the answer is yes, integrate it. If not, let it pass. Emotional neutrality in evaluation preserves energy for decisive action and prevents derailment from unnecessary validation seeking. Rituals strengthen trust in the process. Create checkpoints to review progress, independent of external input. Weekly reflection, milestone assessments, and structured planning sessions build a rhythm that makes external opinions less seductive. The mind begins to trust the methodology because it has its own measurable compass. Results, even incremental, reinforce internal authority and diminish reliance on outside voices. Visualization is another layer of reinforcement. Imagine the long-term impact of persistent adherence to your process, and contrast it with the transient satisfaction of pleasing critics. The mental picture should be vivid: the long-term achievement, the growth, the mastery, sensory detail, feeling the weight of accomplishment, the clarity of progress, the pride in self-mastery anchors the mind. These visualizations act as a counterbalance to the ephemeral weight of other people's judgments. Stoic principles emphasize controlling what is within your power. Opinions exist outside of this control. Your response, your effort, your decisions, these are entirely yours. The daily habit of evaluating actions through this lens creates freedom. Ask at the start of each day, which parts of today are within my control? Which external voices will I refuse to hand power over? By repeatedly practicing this distinction, decision-making becomes sharper, emotional reactions diminish, and confidence grows organically. It is important to acknowledge discomfort. Detachment is rarely easy because humans are social creatures and desire validation. Expect moments of doubt, moments when criticism feels personal or unfair. Accept these as normal, but do not surrender the process. The ability to endure temporary discomfort without deviation is what differentiates those who follow their own path from those who are led by approval. Growth resides in this tension. Implement daily micro steps. For example, when encountering unsolicited advice, pause for 3 deep breaths before reacting. Write a one-line reflection on whether the opinion affects the planned process. Adjust only if it aligns with long-term objectives. Over time, these small actions train neural pathways to favor deliberate, process-focused responses rather than reactive behavior. They convert abstract discipline into embodied habit. Track internal metrics instead of external validation. Record progress in skills, projects, or tasks completed. Avoid counting likes, comments, or praise. The ledger of action is more reliable than public perception. This practice reinforces intrinsic motivation, creating a self-sustaining loop of confidence and progress. The mind becomes anchored in achievement rather than judgment. Detach also requires patience. Processes often produce delayed outcomes. External voices are tempting because they offer instant feedback. Trust in long-term steps over short-term reactions. Consistency compounds silently. It is invisible to casual observers but unmistakable to the disciplined practitioner. Recognizing this builds resilience against the pressure of immediate opinion and allows actions to carry through unshaken. Finally, adopt a perspective of lifelong learning. Detachment does not mean ignoring all input. It means selectively integrating what truly matters. The process itself evolves as knowledge, experience, and feedback from relevant sources accumulate. Treat the methodology as living, adjusting for efficiency, insight, and reality. This approach ensures that detachment is balanced with wisdom, rather than rigid isolation or stubbornness. Immediate practical steps. Identify one recurring opinion that influences behavior unnecessarily. Limit exposure to environments that amplify judgment. Create a daily reflection of actions taken independent of external validation. And celebrate the completion of process-driven tasks. Begin each day by reviewing the most critical steps in your personal methodology and commit to executing them without seeking permission or approval. Detachment from opinions, combined with trust and deliberate action, liberates energy, sharpens focus, and cultivates resilience. By repeatedly practicing this approach, each day becomes a testament to self-reliance. The mind learns to measure success by action and progress, not applause or criticism. Over time, the internal rhythm of disciplined process overtakes the noise of judgment, producing results that are undeniable, personal, and deeply satisfying. When applied consistently, this principle transforms lives. Decisions become rooted in strategy, effort becomes predictable and reliable, and emotional turbulence diminishes. Trusting the process while detaching from opinion is a skill, a daily practice, and a mindset that creates unshakable confidence and enduring achievement. The quiet authority of steady action eventually eclipses the clamor of external voices, leading to mastery, growth, and the realization of long-term goals. Number 4. Turn pain into personal power. Pain is often perceived as an obstacle, an interruption to the life we imagine for ourselves. Yet, it is a force that, when harnessed intentionally, becomes a catalyst for growth and strength. Pain signals that boundaries have been tested, that limits are being confronted, and that transformation is possible. Every struggle, every disappointment, every moment of discomfort carries the seeds of personal power, waiting for attention and conscious effort. Understanding this shifts perspective. Life does not punish us with hardship. It presents opportunities to turn resilience, sharpen discipline, and deepen self-knowledge. The first step in converting pain into power is acknowledgement. Denying or suppressing discomfort only prolongs its influence and allows it to dictate behavior unconsciously. Sit with the feeling without judgment. Name it clearly: anger, loss, fear, frustration. Recognize the physiological responses: tight chest, shallow breathing, tense muscles, without attempting to flee. This presence is the starting point of transformation. By observing pain objectively, the mind separates itself from the immediate emotional surge, creating space for strategic response rather than reactive surrender. Once pain is acknowledged, the next step is reflection. Ask not why this is happening, but what it is teaching. Every painful experience contains a lesson embedded within it. Perhaps it exposes weakness in skill, character, or understanding. Perhaps it highlights a misalignment between values and actions. Extract the insight. Write it down. Make it tangible. The lesson becomes a roadmap for action. Pain that is reflected upon becomes knowledge, and knowledge lays the foundation for mastery. Action is where transformation accelerates. Pain must be channeled into deliberate effort. Physical activity is a powerful outlet. Running, lifting, or movement of any kind converts emotional tension into measurable progress. Beyond the physical, structured work towards goals transforms frustration into momentum. Each step, each repetition, each small victory acts as a counterbalance to suffering. The body and mind become instruments of resilience, proving that what once felt debilitating can be harnessed for creation and achievement. Control over narrative strengthens personal power. Pain is often magnified by the story we tell ourselves about it. I am defeated. I am unlucky. I am incapable. These narratives magnify suffering and limit action. Rewrite the narrative with clarity and purpose. This is a challenge I can learn from. I am developing strength through adversity. My response defines the outcome, not the circumstance. Words shape perception, and perception directs energy. When the story is reframed, pain is no longer an external tyrant, but a raw material for growth. Discipline plays a central role. Persistent discomfort tests consistency. Commit to a daily practice, no matter how small, that aligns with long-term objectives. The act of showing up while in pain reinforces self-trust and creates momentum. Morning routines, skill practice, or focused work sessions become arenas where suffering is converted into productive energy. The repetition of disciplined action over time demonstrates that pain is temporary, while the capability it produces is enduring. Emotional mastery is cultivated in response to pain. Observe triggers without attachment. Learn to differentiate between immediate reactions and considered responses. Journaling is a powerful tool. Describe the experience in detail, identify emotions, and note potential constructive actions. This externalization reduces intensity, clarifies perspective, and reveals patterns. The practice teaches that emotion is information, not instruction. Understanding and regulating emotional response transforms vulnerability into strategic power. Pain often highlights areas neglected in life. Physical, mental, or relational imbalances may surface during periods of difficulty. Use these insights to make precise corrections. Strengthen the body, develop neglected skills, and address unfinished personal business. Each corrective measure converts past discomfort into a blueprint for improvement. In this way, pain becomes a diagnostic tool, revealing opportunities that were previously invisible and guiding action toward long-term resilience. Forgiveness and acceptance enhance transformation. Holding on to resentment or regret extends suffering unnecessarily. Accept what has occurred, not as a defeat, but as a challenge to navigate. Forgive yourself for perceived shortcomings and others for circumstances beyond control. Acceptance does not mean resignation. It is the mental clarity that allows energy to flow into creation, rather than bitterness. The emotional liberation that follows equips the mind for sustained effort and enduring strength. Visualization amplifies the power of pain as fuel. Picture the end goal clearly while recalling the discomfort that prompted action. Associate the sensation of struggle with the image of achievement. Let the memory of hardship ignite focus rather than fear. This mental rehearsal conditions the brain to view challenge as a signal for action, embedding resilience into daily experience. The mind begins to link discomfort directly with forward movement, turning moments of pain into triggers for productivity. Support systems act as amplifiers. Seek out mentors, peers, or communities that embody resilience and can provide guidance without judgment. Shared experience demonstrates that pain is universal and navigable. Observation of others transforming adversity into success reinforces belief in personal capability. Select relationships that challenge complacency and provide constructive feedback. The right support acts as a mirror, reflecting possibilities and validating effort, while maintaining accountability to growth. Incremental goal setting is essential. Large challenges can overwhelm if approached as a whole. Break the response to pain into manageable steps. Each small accomplishment strengthens confidence and demonstrates control. Keep a record of progress, highlighting moments where past discomfort was successfully converted into action. This cumulative evidence reshapes perception. Pain is not a permanent state, but a temporary input for long-term achievement. Consistency in reflection, action, and adaptation transforms suffering into expertise. The mind begins to anticipate challenges, the body adapts to strain, and the spirit gains endurance. Pain becomes less a threat and more a signal, a guidepost indicating where energy should be applied. Every encounter with discomfort becomes a rehearsal for mastery, a repetition that refines skill, character, and willpower. Practical application begins immediately. Identify one ongoing source of discomfort, dissect it to understand the lesson, design a specific action to address it, and execute consistently for the next 30 days. Observe changes in perception, energy, and capability, Reinforce the practice with journaling and visualization. Document small victories to create a tangible ledger of growth. Over time, the act of converting pain into progress becomes a natural, automated response rather than a conscious effort. Resilience becomes habit. The mind learns that adversity is a teacher, effort is the response, and mastery is the result. Each repetition strengthens identity, not as someone defeated by circumstance, but as someone empowered by choice. This is the essence of personal power. It is the ability to transform challenge into capability and discomfort into discipline. Over time, a life built on this principle becomes virtually impervious to temporary setbacks. External difficulties continue, but they no longer dictate emotional state or derail progress. Pain becomes the lever, not the obstacle. Energy is no longer scattered in resistance or complaint. It is channeled with precision toward growth, accomplishment, and mastery. The ultimate lesson is that power is cultivated, not granted. Pain is abundant and unavoidable, but the way it is engaged determines its effect. By acknowledging discomfort, extracting lessons, taking deliberate action, reframing the narrative, and maintaining consistent discipline, pain ceases to be a burden and becomes the engine of transformation. Personal power grows silently, steadily, and irrevocably from the raw material of hardship, forging resilience, competence, and an unshakable capacity to achieve. Every struggle encountered today can be transformed into fuel for tomorrow. The choice is not whether pain exists, that is certain, but whether it defines you or propels you. Through deliberate practice, reflection, and execution, discomfort becomes a companion, a teacher, and a motivator. Life's challenges are no longer obstacles in the path. They are the path itself, leading steadily to mastery, confidence, and enduring strength. Number 5. Master self-control before external control. True influence begins from within. Before attempting to guide others, command circumstances, or shape external outcomes, mastery over oneself is essential. Self-control is the invisible architecture that supports every decision, every relationship, and every achievement. Without it, external authority is fragile, temporary, and reactive. The mind that is disciplined, the emotions that are regulated, and the impulses that are managed form the foundation upon which any meaningful external control is built. Achieving this mastery is not instantaneous. It is the result of deliberate practice, rigorous honesty, and persistent observation of one's behavior and choices. The first step is awareness of impulses. Recognize the moments when reactions arise automatically: frustration at delay, desire for immediate gratification, or the urge to speak before thinking. Observation alone strengthens the ability to intervene before action. Note the triggers, certain people, environments, or internal states that consistently provoke impulsive responses. Awareness is not judgment. It is the first tool of regulation. By acknowledging tendencies without resistance, the mind gains clarity and a reference point for action. Next comes the cultivation of pause. Pause is the bridge between stimulus and response. When faced with a provocation, whether internal or external, practice holding attention for several breaths before acting. This moment of suspension allows logical assessment and conscious choice, rather than reflexive reaction. Over time, this simple habit rewires neural patterns, giving the practitioner a default of deliberation over instinct, foresight over immediacy. Mastery begins in these small intervals of restraint. Discipline over attention strengthens self-control further. Focus is a muscle. It requires deliberate cultivation. Limit engagement with distractions that fragment mental energy. Constant notifications, idle chatter, and unstructured media consumption. Create deliberate blocks of concentrated work or reflection, where the mind is trained to hold single-point focus. This reinforces patience, endurance, and clarity, allowing the brain to resist impulsive redirection toward trivialities and remain aligned with long-term objectives. Emotional regulation is equally essential. Emotions are not to be suppressed, but understood and managed. Track emotional responses throughout the day. Identify patterns: when irritation rises, when envy creeps in, or when fear attempts to dictate decisions. Label the emotion, trace its source, and allow it to pass without automatic response. This practice diminishes reactive behavior and strengthens the mind's authority over affect. Emotional self-control is not denial. It is alignment of feeling with intention. Physical self-regulation underpins mental self-control. Habits around sleep, nutrition, and exercise profoundly affect discipline. Fatigue and poor nourishment increase impulsivity and weaken decision-making. Regular movement trains endurance, not only for the body but for the mind. Controlled breathing, steady posture, and mindful attention to bodily states enhance self-command. Each act of physical mastery, from resisting a late-night snack to sustaining a challenging workout, reinforces the broader pattern of self-regulation across life. Practice delayed gratification. Avoid immediate satisfaction that undermines long-term goals. Instead of yielding to impulse, buying an unnecessary item, scrolling endlessly, or speaking hastily, implement a simple rule: wait 30 minutes before acting on desire. Evaluate whether the action aligns with objectives, values, or principles. This builds resilience and rewires the brain to prioritize enduring outcomes over transient pleasure. Small exercises of this nature accumulate into profound self-control over time. Self-accountability is central. Record actions daily, noting moments when control was maintained and when impulses overrode judgment. Reflection creates transparency, revealing hidden weaknesses and patterns that must be addressed. Celebrate victories of restraint to reinforce confidence and habit formation. Tracking behavior converts abstract concepts of discipline into tangible evidence, providing both motivation and insight. Boundary setting is a practical extension of self-control. Protect time, attention, and energy from demands that conflict with priorities. Learn to refuse politely but firmly, ensuring that external pressures do not override internal authority. Establishing limits signals to the environment that your actions are deliberate, your energy is finite, and your focus is intentional. Boundaries are both defensive and generative. They preserve mental clarity and create space for meaningful work and growth. Develop routines that reinforce consistent self-control. Rituals, such as morning planning, midday reflection, or evening review anchor behavior and structured practice. Routines reduce reliance on fluctuating willpower by automating disciplined action. When the body and mind are trained to perform essential tasks predictably, self-control becomes habitual rather than extraordinary. Habits in this context act as scaffolding, supporting decision-making under pressure and ensuring that discipline endures even when motivation wanes. Mental rehearsal strengthens resistance to temptation. Visualize scenarios where impulses might challenge your goals. A confrontation, a provocative message, or an enticing distraction. Practice maintaining calm, choosing deliberate responses, and executing rational actions. This mental training enhances readiness, reduces anxiety under stress, and solidifies self-command. Rehearsal converts abstract intention into practice skill, ensuring that reactions in real situations are measured and aligned with values. Mindful breathing anchors both mind and body in moments of stress. Deep, deliberate inhalation and slow exhalation signal the nervous system to downshift, reducing reactivity. Breathing techniques applied consistently before responding to a provocation enhance clarity, reduce error, and strengthen control over action. The simple act of attention to breath demonstrates that mastery of small, immediate mechanisms accumulates into authority over larger, complex behaviors. Language shapes self-command. Avoid phrasing that diminishes personal responsibility. I can't help it, I'm too tired, or I had no choice. Replace these with deliberate statements. I choose my response. I control my attention. I will act deliberately. Words internalize discipline. They reinforce the connection between thought and action, framing control as a personal capability rather than a circumstantial reaction. Patience is an essential pillar. Many lapses in self-control emerge from desire for instant results. Train endurance through practices that require sustained effort without immediate reward. This can be extended learning, deliberate skill practice, or long-term project execution. Each instance of waiting reinforces the mind's capacity to defer impulsive satisfaction in favor of meaningful achievement. Patience is not passive. It is disciplined action sustained over time. Account for triggers by creating preemptive strategies. Identify environments, conversations, or habits that historically erode self-control. Plan concrete responses. Step away, delay decision, use breathing techniques, or consult a trusted framework before acting. Anticipation transforms vulnerability into preparedness. By controlling the conditions that provoke impulsive behavior, mastery over self becomes more reliable, reducing reactive patterns. Small acts of control reinforce the larger structure of self-mastery. Choosing water over soda, completing a task before leisure, maintaining posture during fatigue. These minor exercises train the mind and body to resist short-term gratification and prioritize aligned action. Each micro-decision compounds into a profound, resilient habit of self-command. The accumulation of these seemingly insignificant choices produces authority that extends naturally into external influence. Finally, recognize that mastery is continuous. Self-control is not a destination. It is an evolving skill cultivated daily. Each moment provides an opportunity to practice restraint, clarity, and deliberate action. External control is granted only after internal consistency demonstrates reliability. The disciplined mind, the regulated emotion, and the intentional action collectively produce a person whose influence is genuine, durable, and rooted in mastery rather than coercion. Practical steps to begin immediately. Identify one impulsive behavior to monitor this week. Implement a pause and reflection strategy before acting. Design a small daily habit that requires restraint, and journal progress nightly. Include evaluation of emotional reactions, physical responses, and attention focus. Over time, the incremental gains solidify into robust self-command, forming the foundation for lasting external influence. Mastery of self translates directly into freedom, confidence, and strategic advantage. The ability to respond rather than react, to choose rather than be chosen for, and to act in alignment with values before accommodating external demands, distinguishes those who lead meaningful lives from those buffeted by circumstance. Self-control is the precursor to influence. External control is simply the natural result of an internal foundation that is deliberate, resilient, and unwavering. Number 6. Focus rituals for unstoppable momentum. Momentum is the invisible force that separates consistent achievers from those who drift through life. It is built not by occasional bursts of energy, but by repeated, deliberate rituals that prime the mind for focus, action, and sustained. These rituals act as the engine, converting intention into performance and creating a rhythm where effort compounds naturally. Focus is a skill, and like any skill, it requires structure, consistency, and awareness. Without it, even the most capable individuals struggle to translate ambition into results. Begin with a morning alignment ritual. Before responding to messages or engaging with the world, dedicate 15 to 30 minutes to a quiet, intentional practice. Sit, breathe deeply, and identify the most important tasks for the day. Visualize completing each one with precision, noting the steps required to move from intention to execution. This visualization bridges planning with action, signaling to the brain that purpose has been established and that distractions are secondary. The clarity gained in this short period primes the entire day for uninterrupted momentum. Create an environment that signals focus. Remove items that compete for attention and minimize sensory distractions. This may include clearing a workspace, closing irrelevant tabs on a computer, and silencing notifications. The environment acts as a cue, training the mind to recognize that certain spaces and times are reserved for high-value work. Over time, entering this environment automatically triggers attention and effort, reducing reliance on willpower alone. The ritual of preparation itself becomes part of the momentum-building process. Segment tasks into intentional blocks. Each block should have a clearly defined goal, a measurable outcome, and a time limit. The brain responds best to focused effort followed by controlled breaks. For example, a 60-minute session dedicated to a single high-priority task, followed by a brief pause, allows energy to replenish while maintaining forward progress. By structuring work in this manner, Momentum is maintained across multiple hours without exhaustion or mental drift. Each completed block reinforces the sense of progress and produces intrinsic motivation to continue. Pre-task priming enhances focus. Before beginning a session, perform a short ritual that signals readiness. Stretch, take deep breaths, review the task, or recite a concise affirmation of purpose. These small actions activate cognitive alertness and reduce resistance to effort. The brain begins associating these cues with concentration and performance, creating automaticity over time. When executed consistently, this preparatory ritual ensures that focus begins at the onset of each task, rather than requiring an initial struggle to gain clarity. Midday micro-reflection sustains momentum. After completing a substantial task or a set of blocks, pause briefly to evaluate progress, note adjustments, and reaffirm priorities. This practice prevents complacency and allows the brain to recalibrate. Momentum is not linear. It benefits from moments of conscious assessment. Reflection ensures alignment between effort and objectives, preventing energy from dissipating on low-impact activities. Over weeks, this habit sharpens judgment and accelerates productivity by maintaining strategic focus. Physical alignment supports cognitive momentum. Energy is finite, and the body directly influences attention. Short movement breaks, deep stretching, or walking with purpose during transitions between tasks maintains circulation, reduces fatigue, and clears mental clutter. Ritualized movement is not incidental. It functions as a reset mechanism, preparing the mind to return to work with renewed clarity and intensity. Over time, the body learns that these micro-rituals signal the resumption of effort, reinforcing sustained performance. Pair mental focus with deliberate sensory control. Reduce auditory distractions, ensure adequate lighting, and maintain an organized visual field. The brain is highly responsive to sensory inputs, and unmanaged stimuli fragment attention. Ritualized control of sensory environment reduces cognitive load, allowing mental energy to flow into problem-solving, creativity, and execution, rather than constant reorientation. This creates a fertile mental landscape where momentum can accelerate without interruption. Accountability rituals amplify consistency. Report progress daily, even in small increments, to a trusted individual or through self-tracking mechanisms. Documentation creates an external marker of effort and reinforces intrinsic motivation. The act of committing to review and measure achievement transforms intention into visible evidence. When progress is observed and recorded, the brain links effort to tangible outcomes, strengthening the compounding effect of momentum. Evening closure rituals consolidate gains. At the end of each day, spend 5 to 10 minutes reviewing completed work, assessing lessons learned, and planning the following day. This practice prevents unfinished business from lingering in the subconscious and reduces mental noise that could disrupt focus tomorrow. Ritualized closure signals to the brain that the day's objectives have been honored, reinforcing discipline and creating psychological readiness for subsequent efforts. Incorporate sensory anchors into focus sessions. Certain sounds, smells, or tactile sensations can become cues for concentration. For example, a specific playlist, a scent, or a designated workspace object can signal the mind to enter a productive state. By consistently pairing these stimuli with deep work, the brain forms conditioned associations, allowing momentum to begin with minimal conscious effort. These anchors act as triggers for sustained engagement, especially in environments prone to entry. Micro-reward systems reinforce consistency. A brief acknowledgement of completion, a stretch, a sip of water, or a note of accomplishment after completing a focus block reinforces behavior without creating dependency on external validation. These small rituals strengthen habit loops, making sustained effort more intuitive and less reliant on fluctuating willpower. Over weeks, the combination of focus blocks, reflection, and micro-rewards produces a self-propelling system that maintains high performance with minimal friction. Integration of ritualized habits ensures momentum is self-perpetuating. Morning alignment primes the mind. Task blocks execute objectives. Midday reflection recalibrates energy. Movement refreshes the body. Sensory anchors trigger focus. Accountability maintains consistency. and evening closure consolidates gains. This cyclical structure transforms daily effort into an ongoing, self-reinforcing engine of productivity. Momentum becomes inevitable when rituals are consistent, deliberate, and interconnected. Visualization strengthens momentum further. Before starting each session, picture the outcome vividly: the completed project, the clarity of progress, the satisfaction of deliberate action. Sensory-rich mental rehearsal primes neural pathways for execution, reducing resistance and enhancing efficiency. This mental alignment ensures that the mind and body are prepared to sustain focus, turning abstract goals into tangible, actionable steps. Reflection on progress creates a feedback loop, essential for growth. Track completion rates, obstacles overcome, and lessons learned. Adjust rituals as necessary to optimize efficiency and maintain high engagement. Iteration ensures that momentum is not static but adaptive, capable of accelerating even under changing conditions. Over time, this refinement process turns habitual action into strategic excellence. Immediate application involves selecting one high-value focus ritual to implement daily. This could be a morning alignment, a task priming exercise, or a micro-reflection practice. Commit to executing it consistently for a week, observing how energy, clarity, and output change. Introduce additional rituals gradually, layering them to create an integrated system that produces effortless momentum. Measurement and observation transform intention into reliable, compounding results. Momentum, once established, fuels itself. Each completed task energizes subsequent effort. Each reflection sharpens judgment, and each ritual strengthens habit. The cumulative effect is unstoppable. Work flows naturally, decision-making becomes clearer, and focus endures despite distraction or fatigue. Ritualized action converts ordinary days into progressive, compounding achievements that accumulate into long-term mastery. Focus rituals are not arbitrary. They are deliberate tools that bridge intention with sustained execution. When consistently practiced, they reduce resistance, enhance clarity, and create an internal force that propels life forward. Momentum is no longer subject to external conditions. It becomes a property of disciplined structure, intentional practice, and repeated, measurable action. Each ritual compounds the previous, producing a life where energy, attention, and results are aligned in a seamless, self-reinforcing pattern. The practice of focus rituals transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. By embedding preparation, execution, reflection, sensory control, accountability, and closure into daily life, performance becomes automatic, and productivity becomes relentless. Momentum is no longer an accidental byproduct. It is designed, nurtured, and maintained with precision. When sustained, this system allows goals to be reached consistently, challenges to be managed calmly, and long-term success to emerge inevitably from disciplined, intentional action. Number 7. Eliminate distractions. Multiply results. Distractions are the silent thieves of achievement. They appear harmless: a quick glance at a phone, a lingering conversation, a stray thought, but they fragment attention and erode productivity. Each interruption consumes energy, shifts focus, and diminishes the capacity for sustained work. The reality is simple. Results are directly proportional to the concentration invested in meaningful actions. Eliminating distractions is not merely about clearing the environment. It is about cultivating an internal landscape where attention can flow unimpeded, multiplying output and accelerating progress. The first step is identification. Observe daily patterns and record every instance where attention shifts away from priority tasks. Note triggers, notifications, social media, emails, unnecessary meetings, or wandering thoughts. Documenting these distractions clarifies their frequency, duration, and impact. Awareness alone is transformative, revealing the unseen costs of scattered focus. Once identified, each distraction can be strategically addressed rather than tolerated unconsciously. Environment sets the tone for focus. Create spaces specifically for high-value work. Physical clutter, chaotic surroundings, and noisy settings signal the mind that attention is negotiable. Clear surfaces, organize essential tools, and designate areas where work is the only permitted activity. The space itself becomes a cue, signaling the brain to enter a state of heightened concentration. Over time, environmental conditioning reduces the cognitive friction required to maintain focus, allowing energy to be devoted entirely to productive tasks. Digital discipline is essential. Technology is a double-edged sword. It enables creation, but also provides endless interruptions. Establish concrete rules for device usage. Silence notifications, close unnecessary tabs, and limit access to non-essential apps during work sessions. Schedule specific windows for email and messaging. This structure prevents fragmented attention and trains the mind to resist habitual checking. Each deliberate boundary set between tools and tasks magnifies effectiveness, transforming small increments of time into substantial progress. Time blocking reinforces focus. Assign dedicated periods for specific activities, making distraction a conscious choice rather than a default behavior. During these intervals, all unrelated activities are deferred. Using a visible timer or digital calendar can signal the brain that the current period is reserved solely for a high-priority task. Clear temporal boundaries create urgency, sustain attention, and prevent drift into low-impact action. The cumulative effect of consistently protected time significantly multiplies output without increasing effort. Internal distraction must also be managed. Thoughts, worries, and self-doubt can be as disruptive as external interruptions. Mindfulness practices, such as brief meditation, focused breathing, or journaling, train the mind to notice intrusive thoughts without engagement. By acknowledging distractions internally and returning attention to the task, mental energy is preserved and cognitive clarity is maintained. Strengthening internal focus transforms fleeting attention into sustained performance. Batch processing amplifies efficiency. Instead of addressing repetitive, low-value tasks continuously, group them into concentrated sessions. Respond to emails, organize files, or handle administrative duties in designated time blocks. Batching prevents constant context switching, allowing deeper engagement in high-value work. Each completed batch reduces cognitive overhead, leaving mental space for creative and strategic tasks, which have disproportionate impact on results. Simplify decision-making to reduce distraction. Minor choices, repeated throughout the day, drain willpower and fragment attention. Standardize routines, create predefined options, and automate repetitive decisions. This reserves cognitive energy for critical activities, where focus yields the highest return. The fewer trivial choices competing for attention, the more consistently the mind can remain immersed in purposeful work, magnifying outcomes across all domains. Boundaries with others are a critical factor. Many distractions arise from interruptions by well-meaning colleagues, friends, or family. Communicate clear expectations regarding availability, particularly during focus periods. Establish signals, schedules, or designated spaces to minimize unsolicited engagement. Protecting attention is not isolation. It is ensuring that interaction occurs intentionally rather than reactively. When boundaries are respected, work flows uninterrupted, and productivity is amplified exponentially. Micropauses enhance sustained focus. While eliminating distractions is crucial, overextending attention can diminish effectiveness. Brief intentional breaks, standing, stretching, or stepping outdoors, refresh mental energy. These pauses prevent fatigue and maintain the intensity of concentration. Strategic recovery is part of the multiplication effect. Uninterrupted blocks of attention followed by deliberate rest maximize both output and efficiency. Leverage sensory control to deepen focus. Visual, auditory, and tactile elements influence concentration. Reduce clutter, eliminate background noise, and organize essential tools for immediate accessibility. These environmental adjustments minimize unconscious processing of irrelevant stimuli, freeing cognitive capacity for primary objectives. Over time, the brain associates sensory consistency with productive states, allowing attention to engage more deeply and persistently. Prioritization magnifies the impact of focus. Not all tasks yield equal results. Identify the most critical actions, the ones that produce the largest outcomes relative to effort, and allocate undisturbed attention to them. Low-impact activities, once filtered, are either delegated, automated, or deferred. By aligning focus with strategic priorities, effort translates directly into measurable progress, rather than being diluted across inconsequential endeavors. Ritualized preparation accelerates entry into deep focus. Begin each session with a consistent routine, review objectives, organize tools, and engage in a brief centering practice. This ritual signals the mind that distraction is not permitted, enhancing the immediacy of immersion. By embedding these preparatory actions, the onset of attention becomes habitual rather than dependent on fluctuating motivation, reinforcing consistent momentum. Tracking results reinforces discipline. Record completion of focus sessions and measure progress against objectives. This feedback loop validates effort, identifies gaps, and maintains motivation. When the mind sees tangible evidence of accomplishments, the desire to remain undistracted strengthens. Visibility of achievement transforms attention into a self-reinforcing cycle, where uninterrupted effort consistently produces noticeable results. Eliminating distractions multiplies outcomes because attention is a finite resource. Each hour reclaimed from fragmentation becomes an hour of concentrated, high-impact activity. The effect is exponential. When focus is protected, energy is amplified, creativity expands, and execution improves. Small, disciplined interventions, silencing notifications, organizing workspaces, scheduling undisturbed time compound into substantial productivity gains. Immediate application begins with a single environment audit. Identify 3 sources of distraction: digital, physical, or interpersonal, and implement specific strategies to neutralize them. Schedule 1 protected work block today. Minimize internal and external interruptions, and measure output compared to previous sessions. Repeat daily, adjusting as necessary. The repeated practice of eliminating distractions not only enhances current results, but conditions the mind to prioritize attention automatically. Over weeks, this methodology transforms habitual behavior. Focus becomes the default, not the exception. The brain learns to resist temptation. The body associates certain cues with work, and productivity escalates naturally. External interruptions lose power, and internal clarity strengthens. As attention becomes concentrated on high-value tasks, results multiply without proportional increase in effort, demonstrating the compounding power of deliberate focus. Eliminating distractions is not a temporary tactic. It is a strategic commitment. Attention is the currency of achievement, and protecting it generates exponential returns. The small, consistent measures of environmental control, routine establishment, sensory management, and prioritization converge to create a life where output, clarity, and success expand dramatically. Every distraction removed converts into an opportunity for greater accomplishment, demonstrating that focus is the ultimate multiplier of results. The ultimate effect is a state where work is immersive, effort is concentrated, and progress is tangible. The mind functions with clarity, energy flows efficiently, and tasks are executed with precision. By consistently removing interruptions, both external and internal, each day becomes a series of high-impact actions, and results accumulate faster than ever before. Distraction-free living is not merely about productivity. It is about creating conditions where potential is fully realized, and outcomes grow exponentially from disciplined focus. Number 8. Win in silence. Let results speak. True power and influence often emerge quietly. Those who achieve the greatest victories rarely announce them in advance or seek constant recognition. Instead, they focus on consistent action, deliberate effort, and disciplined execution, allowing tangible results to communicate their value. Silence in pursuit does not signify weakness, hesitation, or indecision. It signifies self-mastery, focus, and confidence. By acting without unnecessary proclamation, energy is preserved, distractions are minimized, and attention is directed solely toward actions that generate measurable impact. The first step is to embrace intentional restraint. Avoid the urge to boast, justify, or explain plans before they are realized. Speaking prematurely can invite judgment, create external pressure, and waste energy on persuasion rather than performance. Each conversation, each declaration, carries emotional and cognitive cost. By limiting announcements, The mind maintains clarity and reserves energy for execution. Silence creates space for thought, observation, and refinement of strategy, allowing actions to be deliberate rather than reactive. Focus on measurable progress rather than perception. Track personal metrics, accomplishments, and improvements consistently. When attention is paid to objective performance instead of seeking validation, the mind internalizes mastery over perception. Results then become self-evident and undeniable. The discipline of observing one's own advancement without broadcasting it ensures that every effort is authentic and purposeful, not contingent on recognition. This internal feedback loop strengthens confidence and sustains long-term commitment. Consistency amplifies the effect of silent effort. Small, deliberate actions performed daily accumulate into substantial achievement. Each completed task, each milestone reached, contributes to a pattern of visible excellence without requiring external acknowledgement. Momentum is built incrementally, and over time results speak louder than words ever could. The quiet practitioner understands that mastery is proven through action, not announcement, and that sustained effort invariably produces discernible outcomes. Distraction diminishes the power of silence. When attention is diverted to public perception, social comparison, or external approval, energy is fragmented and execution suffers. To maintain effectiveness, create boundaries around environments, interactions, and digital exposure that feed ego-driven communication. Prioritize tasks that directly contribute to results and minimize engagement with commentary or judgment that does not advance objectives. Focus becomes sharper, and the output generated through disciplined action grows exponentially. Visualizing outcomes strengthens commitment to silent achievement. Picture the final result, the accomplishment fully realized, and the satisfaction it produces. This mental rehearsal reinforces persistence and reduces the urge to seek validation prematurely. By holding the vision internally, energy is preserved for execution, and motivation becomes intrinsic rather than reliant on applause or recognition. The mind associates effort with internal reward, and silence becomes a source of strength rather than frustration. Emotional regulation supports the practice of quiet work. Avoid letting impatience, frustration, or envy compel public declarations. Observe emotions, acknowledge them without judgment, and redirect energy toward actionable steps. Emotional stability ensures that effort remains consistent and progress continues uninterrupted. Those who master the ability to act calmly and deliberately without the need for constant affirmation build resilience that amplifies effectiveness and impact. Strategic communication is crucial when operating in silence. Speak only when necessary, conveying information that advances objectives or clarifies essential points. Avoid commentary that seeks to impress, defend, or persuade unnecessarily. This intentionality creates credibility, enhances authority, and ensures that every word carries weight. When action is prioritized over explanation, the mind focuses on results, and the work itself becomes the primary communicator of competence and achievement. Observation is a complementary practice. Quiet individuals are often keenly aware of dynamics, opportunities, and challenges. By listening more than speaking, subtle patterns are noticed, relationships are understood, and strategic choices are better informed. Silence provides access to insights that loud or reactive behavior can obscure. This attentiveness allows decisions to be made with precision, and results are often amplified because they are informed by understanding rather than assumption. Documenting progress privately reinforces accountability. Journaling accomplishments, lessons learned, and incremental improvements creates a personal record of achievement. This practice validates effort internally without requiring external recognition. Reflection strengthens awareness, highlights growth areas, and provides evidence of advancement. Over time, the accumulation of these private records underscores that results are a product of consistent action, deliberate strategy, and self-discipline. Resisting social comparison enhances silent success. Avoid measuring progress against others' achievements or public image. Focus instead on personal benchmarks and meaningful outcomes. Comparison often generates unnecessary noise, distracts from critical tasks, and encourages premature proclamation. By concentrating on personal growth and results, energy is maximized, and progress is more substantial. Silence allows achievement to unfold organically, free from external influence or expectation. Prioritizing high-impact actions multiplies results. Identify tasks with disproportionate value relative to effort, and dedicate focused, uninterrupted time to their completion. Let trivial or low-impact tasks remain secondary or be delegated. This deliberate allocation of energy ensures that work produces the maximum possible outcome. Silent effort combined with strategic prioritization compounds impact, creating outcomes that are significant, tangible, and visible without the need for announcement. Patience is essential. Results often require sustained effort over time. The temptation to seek recognition prematurely can undermine momentum and distract from execution. Embrace delayed gratification. Trust that consistent, focused work will eventually produce undeniable outcomes. The practice of patience reinforces discipline, conserves energy, and allows achievements to mature fully before being revealed. When results are finally evident, they carry authority and respect precisely because they emerged without public claim. Mentorship and learning are amplified through quiet action. By observing others, absorbing lessons, and integrating knowledge silently, efficiency and skill development accelerate. Feedback can be sought selectively from trusted sources, reducing the influence of casual opinions or noise. The combination of observation, reflection, and private refinement creates depth of capability that is often invisible until results manifest, enhancing both credibility and mastery. Focus rituals reinforce this approach. Begin each day with a brief review of goals, identify key priorities, and create uninterrupted time blocks for execution. Midday reflection recalibrates energy, while end-of-day review documents progress and lessons. These structured practices maintain clarity, reinforce discipline, and maximize output. Momentum becomes self-sustaining as the mind grows conditioned to action over proclamation, results over words, and persistence over recognition. Immediate application begins by identifying one area of life or work where excessive explanation or premature announcement occurs. Replace it with a commitment to act silently for 30 days, focusing on measurable outcomes. Track progress privately, maintain structured time blocks, and prioritize high-value tasks. Observe how the quality, efficiency, and impact of results evolve without the influence of external validation. Winning in silence transforms the nature of achievement. Effort becomes deliberate, focus intensifies, and outcomes are undeniable. Actions are measured, strategic, and sustained, while energy is preserved for productive work rather than superficial persuasion. When results finally emerge, they carry weight, authority, and credibility that words alone cannot confer. Silence is not the absence of action. It is a deliberate strategy that amplifies effectiveness, deepens mastery, and ensures that achievements speak with clarity, consistency, and power. The ultimate lesson is that results are the most compelling form of communication. Effort executed quietly, deliberately, and consistently creates impact that cannot be ignored. By acting in silence, cultivating discipline, prioritizing high-value work, and allowing outcomes to demonstrate competence, influence, and mastery, every accomplishment carries a resonance far stronger than any declaration could convey. Winning in silence is the art of letting the work itself become the voice of success. Number 9. Rewire mindset for long-term victory. Long-term victory begins in the mind. The patterns, beliefs, and assumptions that shape thinking dictate the trajectory of action, effort, and results. A mindset focused on short-term comfort, instant gratification, or external validation limits potential, while a mindset intentionally cultivated for resilience, discipline, and vision multiplies capability exponentially. Rewiring mindset is not a superficial shift. It is a deep, deliberate restructuring of perception, self-concept, and cognitive response to challenges, setbacks, and opportunity. It requires persistence, awareness, and structured practice, transforming obstacles into fuel, failures into lessons, and effort into compounding success. The first step is self-awareness. Observe thoughts without judgment. noting patterns of doubt, procrastination, fear, or limiting beliefs. Identify recurring narratives. I am not ready. I cannot succeed, or this is too difficult. These internal scripts are the foundation of behavior. Unexamined, they guide decisions unconsciously. Writing thoughts down, reflecting daily, or recording internal dialogue provides clarity, revealing where rewiring is necessary. Awareness is the first tool for transformation because only what is observed can be altered intentionally. Next comes conscious redefinition of beliefs. Replace limiting thoughts with principles aligned to long-term goals. For example, transform "I fail too easily" into "failures are feedback that guide growth." Replace "I need approval to succeed" with "My actions determine my results, not opinions." The brain responds to repetition. Consistent reinforcement of new beliefs strengthens neural pathways, creating durable shifts in perception. Over time, the mind internalizes these reframed ideas, producing confidence, resilience, and proactive behavior. Focus on process over outcome. Long-term victory requires sustained effort, not intermittent bursts of achievement. Train the mind to value daily action, incremental improvement, and deliberate practice. Each small, consistent effort compounds over time, producing results that far exceed sporadic effort. By shifting attention from immediate results to continuous execution, the brain develops patience, discipline, and endurance, qualities essential for long-term success. Adopt a growth-oriented perspective. Challenges, mistakes, and setbacks are not reflections of inadequacy, but opportunities to expand capability. View obstacles as information, revealing areas for skill development, strategy refinement, or mindset adjustment. Each setback is a stepping stone toward mastery. By interpreting difficulties as constructive signals rather than failures, the mind becomes resilient, adaptable, and oriented towards sustained achievement, rather than fleeting comfort. Rewiring requires intentional practice of cognitive reframing. When confronted with stress, criticism, or adversity, pause and analyze. What lesson exists here? How can this situation strengthen me? What opportunities emerge from difficulty? This deliberate questioning transforms potentially negative experiences into drivers of growth. Over time, cognitive reframing becomes habitual, reducing reactive negativity and increasing strategic problem-solving, creativity, and focus. Visualization amplifies mindset transformation. Mentally rehearse long-term goals in vivid detail, the tangible outcomes, the process required, and the challenges to overcome. Engage all senses. Feel the satisfaction of achievement, hear the affirmation of success, and see the steps clearly in sequence. Repeated visualization primes the neural pathways that govern behavior, creating an internal blueprint for action and reinforcing belief in eventual success. Emotional regulation supports sustainable progress. Long-term victory is incompatible with constant emotional turbulence. Train the mind to observe feelings, acknowledge them, and choose responses consciously. Techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, journaling, or short reflective pauses reduce impulsivity and reactivity. The capacity to remain calm and intentional under pressure strengthens the mind's ability to pursue long-term objectives without deviation, distraction, or discouragement. Surrounding influence shapes mindset. Engage with people who reinforce growth, discipline, and vision. Limit exposure to negativity, envy, or pessimism, which perpetuate limiting beliefs. Mentors, peers, or communities aligned with excellence provide examples, accountability, and inspiration, accelerating cognitive and behavioral transformation. Selective exposure to influence ensures that external signals amplify rather than undermine the internal rewiring process. Ritualized learning embeds new perspectives into daily life. Allocate time for reading, reflection, or skill practice every day, focusing on materials that expand understanding, resilience, and strategic thinking. Continuous learning reinforces neural flexibility, providing the mind with diverse tools to approach challenges and opportunities. Over time, habitual engagement with growth-oriented input transforms perspective, enabling long-term thinking and superior decision-making. Accountability enhances the durability of mindset change. Track behaviors, measure progress toward long-term objectives, and reflect on alignment between action and intention. Regular evaluation highlights gaps, reinforces discipline, and strengthens self-trust. Documenting successes, however small, reinforces confidence and embeds the principle that deliberate action yields measurable advancement. This creates a self-sustaining cycle where reinforcement of positive behavior accelerates neural adaptation. Micro-habits drive compounding impact. Small, consistent behaviors, such as daily reflection, planning the day ahead, or executing high-priority tasks without delay, create momentum. The aggregation of minor victories solidifies the belief in capability, reinforcing confidence in long-term goals. Mindset is not shaped solely by grand gestures, but by the cumulative effect of repeated, intentional actions. Adaptability is a core component. Rewiring mindset does not mean rigid adherence to a fixed plan. It involves flexible strategic thinking. Recognize when methods are ineffective, reassess approaches, and adjust tactics without abandoning overarching objectives. The mind trained in adaptive persistence navigates uncertainty and challenge without being derailed, turning change into an advantage rather than a threat. Discipline of attention strengthens neural focus. Minimize distractions that fragment cognitive energy. Time blocking, environmental control, and limiting digital interruptions ensure that mental capacity is directed toward high-value, long-term objectives. Focused attention reinforces belief in progress and prevents the mind from being seduced by immediate gratification or transient opinions. Energy preserved through disciplined attention becomes fuel for strategic action and sustained growth. Patience underpins every long-term endeavor. Immediate results are often absent, and temptation to abandon or pivot prematurely is high. Cultivate tolerance for delayed gratification, viewing the present effort as an investment in future outcomes. Each act of endurance strengthens belief in personal capability, consolidates self-discipline, and reaffirms commitment to sustained achievement. Over time, patience becomes an automatic attribute, integral to the mindset of long-term victory. Integration of all these practices creates an internal ecosystem for success: awareness, reframed beliefs, growth orientation, emotional regulations, selective influence, deliberate learning, adaptive problem-solving, focus, and patience work together synergistically. This holistic rewiring ensures that the mind consistently prioritizes enduring goals, responds strategically to obstacles, and produces actions aligned with long-term vision. Immediate implementation begins with conscious observation. Identify one recurring limiting belief or reactive thought pattern. Replace it with a growth-oriented alternative. Pair this with a daily action aligned with long-term objectives, such as focused work, skill development, or reflection. Track progress, reflect on outcomes, and iterate. Gradually, repeated reinforcement rewires cognitive pathways, internalizing the mindset required for sustained achievement. Rewiring mindset for long-term victory is the difference between temporary effort and enduring mastery. It converts obstacles into opportunities, short-term discomfort into strategic advantage, and routine action into compounding progress. The mind becomes a disciplined instrument, capable of sustaining effort, maintaining clarity, and navigating challenges with purpose. Victory is no longer a distant hope, but a product of deliberate, consistent, and conscious mental cultivation. Through persistent practice, every thought, decision, and behavior aligns with long-term objectives. Immediate gratification loses its allure, setbacks are reframed as instruction, and incremental effort compounds into remarkable achievement. The rewired mind no longer reacts impulsively, but responds strategically. Each day becomes a step forward, each challenge a lesson, and every action a building block toward victory that is both inevitable and sustainable. Number 10. Commit fully until success is inevitable. Success is rarely a matter of chance. It is the product of unwavering commitment, consistent effort, and an unrelenting refusal to surrender in the face of challenge. Partial dedication produces partial results, and hesitation diminishes momentum. To achieve outcomes that feel inevitable, one must align every action, thought, and choice with the ultimate objective. Commitment is not a fleeting decision. It is a sustained orientation of energy, focus, and intention that transforms effort into unstoppable progress. The first step is clarity of purpose. Define what success truly looks like. Identify the outcome with precision. The skill mastered, the milestone achieved, the impact realized. Vague goals dilute energy and invite distraction. By articulating a concrete vision, the mind creates a magnetic focus that directs effort strategically. Every decision becomes aligned with this purpose, filtering out anything that does not contribute to advancement. Clarity transforms commitment from abstract desire into actionable direction. Prioritization magnifies effectiveness. When fully committed, not all tasks are equal. Determine the high-leverage actions that generate the greatest impact relative to effort. Commit first to these tasks, investing undivided attention and energy. The relentless pursuit of priority activities accelerates progress, while trivial distractions are consciously deferred or eliminated. This disciplined allocation of effort ensures that each step directly contributes to the realization of the ultimate goal. Consistency fuels inevitability. Commitment is meaningless without regular, sustained action. Small, repeated efforts compound into extraordinary results over time. Establish routines that anchor behavior to desired outcomes. Morning preparation, focused work sessions, reflection, and planning. Each repetition reinforces skill, strengthens habit, and builds momentum. The accumulation of deliberate action produces a trajectory where success becomes increasingly unavoidable. Persistence under adversity is essential. Challenges, setbacks, and criticism are inevitable components of any meaningful pursuit. True commitment entails embracing discomfort, maintaining focus, and continuing forward despite difficulty. View obstacles as information rather than deterrents. Each challenge reveals areas for adjustment, growth, or refinement. Persistence transforms adversity from an impediment into a catalyst, accelerating learning and strengthening resilience. Total focus eliminates divided attention. Commitment requires concentration on the essential and the consequential. Avoid the temptation to multitask, negotiate effort, or seek validation mid-process. Allocate uninterrupted time for high-priority work and protect it rigorously. Deep focus amplifies the effectiveness of each action, allowing progress to compound faster than fragmented effort. The intensity of attention converts effort into measurable results, reinforcing the inevitability of success. Embrace calculated risk as part of full commitment. Hesitation born of fear limits potential. Evaluate opportunities carefully, then act decisively. Failure is not a sign of weakness but a natural component of meaningful action. Each attempt provides data, insight, and refinement, propelling the process forward. Commitment to success requires readiness to step beyond comfort zones. Understanding that deliberate, informed risk accelerates progress and clarifies the path to mastery. Adaptation and learning are continuous. Commitment does not mean rigidity. It demands responsiveness. Regularly assess strategies, outcomes, and methods. Identify what works, discard what does not, and refine approaches to maintain alignment with ultimate objectives. The willingness to evolve ensures that effort remains effective, even as circumstances change. Adaptation preserves momentum, prevents stagnation, and maintains the trajectory toward inevitable success. Mental resilience sustains commitment. The mind must be trained to withstand doubt, discouragement, and impatience. Daily practices, reflection, visualization, affirmations, or meditation strengthen mental fortitude. By cultivating a mindset oriented toward persistence, the brain becomes conditioned to interpret setbacks as temporary and solvable. Resilience ensures that commitment is maintained when external conditions are unfavorable, preventing derailment and keeping focus aligned with the long-term vision. Accountability reinforces action. Share progress with a mentor, peer, or a structured system that provides objective feedback. Regular evaluation creates external pressure to maintain consistency, while also highlighting blind spots or opportunities for improvement. Accountability complements internal commitment, ensuring that effort is sustained, disciplined, and strategically aligned. External structures amplify personal dedication, making success increasingly predictable. Sacrifices inherent in full commitment. Prioritize long-term achievement over short-term comfort, social distraction, or passive pleasure. Each decision, from time allocation to energy expenditure, should be evaluated for its contribution to the ultimate goal. The willingness to forego minor indulgences preserves focus and momentum. Sacrifice is not deprivation. It is the conscious investment of resources into outcomes that matter most. The greater the commitment, the more significant the result. Energy management sustains relentless action. Physical, mental, and emotional energy must be deliberately cultivated and preserved. Adequate sleep, nutrition, exercise, and mental recovery are not optional. They are foundational to sustained performance. High-quality energy enables sharper focus, faster execution, and higher quality output. When energy is managed strategically, commitment is supported by capability, preventing burnout and ensuring continuous progress toward the goal. Visualization strengthens the mind-body connection to success. Mentally rehearse achieving objectives in vivid detail, the actions required, the challenges overcome, and the feelings of accomplishment. Visualization aligns subconscious processes with deliberate action, creating internal reinforcement of purpose. The brain treats vividly imagined success as an actionable roadmap, making each effort directed, precise, and purposeful. Repeated rehearsal enhances confidence and reduces hesitation, amplifying the inevitability of achievement. Emotional alignment enhances execution. Strong commitment requires emotional investment in the outcome. Connect deeply with the reasons behind the goal, the vision, impact, or value it represents. Emotional resonance drives motivation, sustains effort through challenges, and reinforces persistence. When the mind and heart are aligned with purpose, each action becomes energized, deliberate, and productive, magnifying the likelihood of success. Reflection ensures continuous alignment. Regularly review progress, outcomes, and strategies. Identify gaps between action and intention, and correct course where necessary. Reflection prevents drift, strengthens awareness, and consolidates learning from both successes and failures. Each moment of introspection reinforces commitment, sharpening focus and ensuring that effort consistently contributes to long-term objectives. Immediate application begins with one decisive step. Identify a single high-priority goal and commit entirely for a defined period. Remove distractions, allocate dedicated time, and focus daily on executing tasks that directly advance the objective. Document progress, adjust strategies as needed, and resist compromise or diversion. Consistent action over time transforms intention into results, making success not merely likely, but inevitable. Full commitment reshapes identity. When effort is unwavering, habits are disciplined, and focus is continuous, the mind begins to internalize capability. Confidence, resilience, and mastery emerge naturally, creating a feedback loop where belief in success reinforces action, and action reinforces belief. The trajectory toward achievement accelerates because the individual is no longer responding reactively to circumstances, but proactively shaping outcomes through deliberate, relentless effort. Committing fully until success becomes inevitable is the ultimate form of personal mastery. It transcends temporary motivation, external validation, or superficial effort. It requires total alignment of thought, energy, and action toward the highest priorities. Each decision, moment, and choice is filtered through the lens of the end goal. Challenges are embraced as fuel. Persistence becomes a habit, and results are no longer contingent. They are the natural consequence of sustained, unwavering dedication. Success achieved through complete commitment carries certainty. The relentless pursuit, disciplined execution, and adaptive strategy create a trajectory so robust that the outcome becomes inevitable. Momentum compounds, confidence grows, and capability solidifies. Every action contributes directly to the vision, making deviation costly and focus paramount. When commitment is total, victory is not a possibility. It is an outcome embedded in the structure of effort, intention, and persistent action. This level of dedication transforms not just results, but character. Endurance, resilience, and mastery become ingrained qualities. Life is approached with clarity, precision, and discipline. Each challenge is met strategically, each opportunity pursued decisively, and each setback leveraged for growth. Commitment becomes a way of life, producing not only achievement, but a self-reinforcing capacity for excellence in all future endeavors. When action, focus, and energy are fully aligned with purpose, the process of achieving success accelerates naturally. The mind, body, and will operate in harmony, producing measurable, undeniable outcomes. This is the essence of committing fully. It converts effort into certainty, ambition into reality, and vision into tangible, lasting achievement. The moment dedication reaches totality, success is no longer aspirational, it is inevitable.